Hi, Mike. Welcome to Well-Oiled Operations.
Well, thanks for having me on your show, Stacy.
Yes, I am so excited. We had you back many years ago talking about Profit First, which is like one of my all-time favorite books. It is one of those books I've been a business owner for 21 years, and that book changed the way I did things for many, many years. So thanks for writing that book. I pass it to many of our clients that need it desperately. But today we're talking about another book you have coming out very soon, All In. So I would love to hear a little bit about why this book, why now?
Yeah, so ever since Profit First, and thank you for being a reader and an implementer of it and a sharer.
Yes.
That's a big deal
Yeah.
for me. Ever since writing that book, I have the wonderful experience of being engaged with my readership. And so I get emails regularly, what's the biggest need? And there was no question when COVID came about that recruiting employees, retaining employees, raising the bar for a company, it's all shifted tremendously. Well, there's been research I've been doing on this subject for the longest time, but I guess COVID became the catalyst, particularly with remote environments happening
Yeah.
now. So I wrote the book. The subtitle is How Great Leaders Build Unstoppable Teams. And I'm convinced, not just from the research, but from the deployment, we've tested in my own businesses and
Yeah.
with many other businesses, that you can be a micro enterprise of one and have remote workers. You can have a small retail
Yeah.
shop of just a few folks, or you can be a large corporation. The principles remain the same.
Why do you think it is so important to surround yourself with these people to build this business?
So here's what's interesting. There was a study that came out. I want to attribute it to the SBA.
Okay.
They said that 17% of people start a business in their lifetime or run a business. And to give that context, in first grade, I think there was 30 kids in my class. 17% would be 5 students. But here was the other statistic. 20% of that 17% actually do it on a sustainable, successful basis. So 20% times 17% is 3%. That means one kid from my first grade class, one kid from your class, it's you, Stacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every other kid is looking for a good job with a good company where they can build a satisfactory life experience or more than that. They want to really lean into this. Well, our job, and this is like one to write down, the job of an entrepreneur is not to do the job, it's to be a creator of jobs.
Mm.
So in our business, yes, in the beginning, there's a necessity to do the work, but as quickly as possible, we need to extract ourselves from doing, empower others to do, and for us to be great leaders to let them step into their greatest selves. That's our job.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's
that's
exciting.
what it's
I,
exciting. It's
I,
terrifying.
I was just going to say, I was just going to say that. I'm like, I think it's exciting. It is a little terrifying, especially if you haven't built a team yet, or you're
Yes.
struggling to build a team.
Yeah.
So that's so cool. I love that statistic. I have not heard that.
Yeah.
It's what an honor that the person listening is like that one person
One
who
percenter.
created
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Like that's so cool. And that we get to have this opportunity for others to love their job.
Correct.
My sister one time said, I think everybody hates their job. I'm like, no,
No, no.
no, absolutely not. Right. Because it just feels like such like the norm. But how can we be, again, the 1% that has this incredible opportunity and we get to build that, we get to create it. So let's talk to the person who's slightly terrified with the comments you've just made.
Yeah.
And they are maybe a little nervous to really scale their team in 2024. What
Yeah.
would you tell them to get them a little bit more open to that?
Well, I'm going to give you a brand new approach that I know you've never heard of, but I want to tell you the inception of this. I met with Kip Tyndall. He's the co-founder of the Container Store.
Okay.
And if you think about the Container Store, if you've ever been there, it is a remarkable experience. But the irony is they sell containers. Like you go to Walmart and get containers, yet the people here are so into it. And when I heard his story, I started to do researching on recruiting these extraordinary people. Here's the thing. There's an industry that already exists that brings on the best talent, the most excited talent in the world. Is nearly $1 trillion industry, but it's not private business. It's the sports industry. And the sports industry runs camps. Now, let me give a little more context. I played sports in high school. I was a lacrosse player, and I was fine. I wasn't anything great, but I went to a camp. At the camp, they were teaching all the students there. Maybe there's 300 student athletes, teaching us all new skills. Some of the students got tapped on the shoulder saying, hey, you are showing really good talent here. We want to bring you to another field. And they got tapped on the shoulder. They were vetting out the best student athletes for their program while elevating everyone. I got better. I actually ended up playing in college in part because of that camp. I just didn't play for that college. So there's an application for us. And there's already corporations doing this. Next time you see Home Depot run like one of those, like build a birdhouse workshops, they're actually recruiting employees. And here's what they do. You go with your children, from whoever, and you build a birdhouse. They're hoping to ingratiate with the store. They want you to buy more from them, but they also have employees that are observing the most participative parents, the people who are showing the most curiosity and interest, the ones who are helping others. They will tap you on the shoulder, just like that camp, and say, hey, you're really good at this. You ever think about working at Home Depot? So if you own a retail store or any kind of store, you can run a camp. Invite people in. Hey, ever want to know what's like running a retail store or working in this capacity or teaching a special skill or identifying the newest fashion, whatever it may be? Come in, do our camp. Could be a few hours in person, could be longer, could be online if you want. See the people who are showing the most interest, your curiosity, desire, ultimately thirst. Those are the ones you want to tap on the shoulder and maybe extend them an offer to work with you.
That is really interesting. I have not heard that. That's amazing. People have this perception right now that it's so hard to find good talent, right?
Yes.
And this is a unique way of figuring out, do you already have it in a circle that you're already aware of too?
That's right. And here's the greatest thing. We've been doing this and helping businesses do it. You can have your competition send people. So we worked with a preschool that was looking for what's called site directors, someone that would go to multiple sites, see if they're operating properly. What we did is we put on a site direction certification program. It's a half day. And we reached out to the competition, said, do you have teachers who are interested in maybe becoming site directors? We'll train them and certify them in our process. They'll get a certificate of accomplishment. Well, all these people showed up. They paid to be there too, which is also an indication of curiosity. So you can charge for these workshops. At the end of the day, there was a few teachers that were really showing a propensity and a desire for this. We tapped them on the shoulder and said, listen, we actually have positions here for site directors. Your current employer may have a position, so we invite you to speak with them. But if you're not satisfied and you wanted a different opportunity, we may be someone that you want to consider. 2 of those teachers now work for us. They are the best site directors we've ever had for this organization, and our competition sent them to us. Yeah, there's tons of people out there, just not in the run an ad online sense. You have to look at it.
Okay, I love this. I'm all for it. I will have people listening that are going to say, oh, I feel weird stealing from my competitor. Like, we don't do recruitment. We don't purposely do this. Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about like, is this wrong? Is this okay? What do you think on this?
The number one job of an entrepreneur is to be a creator of good or great jobs. Our job is to be a service to people. And listen, if they're under their current employment, they can fulfill their full potential, they should do that. And we should, through these programs, empower people to discover their potential and invite them to do it with their current employer. But if their employer does not have a pathway for them to express their potential and you do, my God, it's your obligation. It's your obligation to bring these people in because that's where their opportunity is.
Yeah.
Have to see it that way.
Okay. I love that you're using the word obligation. So what's funny is I deal with this a lot with clients, like, thinking this isn't, somebody even said, this doesn't feel ethical. I'm like, no, listen. Okay. So imagine if you are marketing to a potential client and they're working with your competitor. I don't feel like we feel guilty when they leave the competitor to buy from us.
That's
it's
right.
The same exact thing, but it's the people that are working there, right? So when I usually share that with my business owners, they're like, oh yeah, we do that all the time. We have an obligation to make sure they know we're the best place to buy from.
Oh my God.
We're the best place to work from.
You are preaching, and flip the role too. Imagine you're the employee. Say you're in a position where you can't express your potential and someone comes to you and says, you know what, there's an opportunity for you to express potential, but since you're already employed, I'm not going to tell you what it is. Good luck on your own. Wouldn't you prefer if someone came to you and said, there's an option for you to do some things that are even greater? Do you feel called to do it? Wouldn't you want someone giving you that light of the day? I think so.
Absolutely. Okay. So I would love to hear from your book, like what are some strategies to going all in on your team this year?
Yeah. First is to understand that your vision for the company is not their vision for themselves. And there's this grand mistake I made. I came out of my one company, out of my office for this meeting. I said, this year is the year we're going to do $10 million. I had it all figured out. I made this big announcement. I had, survivors, I had the tire plant in the background, all the cheese, and no one got excited. I'm like, what's wrong with the team? And then my assistant came to me and she said, Mike, if we achieve 10 million, you get the new house, you get the new car, but why should we care? I was like, oh my gosh. I said, well, what do you want? And she said, I actually want to learn Spanish. Another person said, I'm looking to move to another country. Another person wants to buy their first house. Once I understood that everyone has their own visions, their own path, their own dream for their own life, I realized that my responsibility is not to talk about my dream, it's to talk about our dreams. It's called vision alignment. Every week, I meet with every team member in my company. And now we've gotten to the size where the president of our company, not myself, but the president, Kelsey, is meeting with every team member. And we just talk about, what is your dream? One person wanted to become a clinical psychologist. And we said, okay, her name is Jenna. We said, what can we do to support this? So now our job as employers, not to pay for that. We want you employed gainfully with us, but what can we do? And so we started being flexible on our schedule. Another employee, her name is Lisa, wanted to be a firefighter. We had no clue.
Wow.
And now she is a firefighter. She's actually no longer employed with us. But Lisa last year said, hey, I'd like to come back to the office retreat. We have an annual retreat. I'm going to pay for it, my travel, my own time. I'm just so appreciative of how you supported my vision. I want to continue to support your vision. And she contributed to our meetings.
That's
a
cool.
leader who cares about the future of their colleague, regardless if it's with you or without you, is someone who's empowering a team member who's going to be fully reciprocating that back to the business and care for the business.
So good. So what do you do? Like, I can imagine somebody's listening thinking, but I don't want them to leave. Is this a bad idea to hurt employee retention? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a classic thing. It's like, if I don't serve my employees and improve my team, like educate them and so forth, they will stay. If I do support them, improve them, they may leave. And that's absolutely true. But if you do support them and educate them, they may leave. But imagine you do nothing, then they have to stay. Now you have an uneducated, unimproving, static person there. It's bad for them, but it's also bad for your business. When you elevate someone to their full potential, maybe they can express it with you. But the reality too is, look at your own career path. Have you been at the same job, the same company for your entire life? Probably not. Probably different companies, probably different businesses, definitely different jobs. So if it's good enough for us, isn't that good enough? And isn't that appropriate for everybody?
Yeah. And not everybody is going to want something external, right? Not everybody's going to want to jump ship to something else. They might want to, like, did you get anybody to say, like, I'd love to see myself in management here or in leadership or things like that, where you might have an opportunity for them in-house as well?
Yeah. So my personal assistant at the time, her name is Kelsey, showed a propensity toward management and wanted to express that. She became president. And when she became president, I met with her and I said, I think it's time that you're president. And she's like, I don't know yet. I said, well, you've been doing it for the last 6 months. You're doing all the roles. And she's like, yeah. And
That's funny.
It wasn't an assignment of a job. It was simply showing that significance through a title for something she already did. The thing is, you may have some people leave, and there's also an opportunity there. Some people that come on board will be so inspired by what they're learning and gaining from you. They may want to start their own business, maybe even a competing business, and that feels risky. But why not develop a pathway saying, listen, we want you here for 5 years, and we're going to do everything to develop you because one day you may want to start the same business. And when you do, we want to be part of it. So we're going to give you a 5-year pathway, and we're going to help you launch your own business, and we're going to share in 10 or 20% of it. But we're going to send customers your way. We're going to promote you. And now you have a pathway, and you're building your platform by having an investment in future businesses.
Yeah. What does it take of the CEO? How do they need to behave or act to gain the trust of an employee being open to sharing something that maybe feels risky to them?
Yeah, so that's the biggest challenge. You have to be willing to bare your own soul. In the book, I shared a story about a gentleman who is transgender, born female, but always identified male, and took the surgical actions to make this a reality, but also was fearful of sharing his story because of the relational consequence, the emotional risk or safety that was being compromised, until the leader of the organization said, I want to share something about myself. It wasn't related to this, but it opened the gateway. They shared integrally about themselves. There's no question that we are all based upon reciprocity. What you do begets what you get. So if you speak truthfully and honestly about yourself, you'll get that in return. But you have to be the leader in bearing your soul first. The one thing I do want to do is a little caveat or asterisk is don't put it all on the table day one. It can be too much, too quick.
Yeah.
Put pieces out so that we build that comfort with each other over time.
Yeah, that makes sense because they might be thinking, we don't really talk about this kind of personal stuff here. Is this really a place for me to share something like that?
Yeah.
So even just going first and just acknowledging that it is a safe space and it is something that they're able to do, I think helps them feel more comfortable and at ease.
Yeah, about 1/4 of the book is dedicated to psychological safety, emotional safety, but also physical safety. So I want to share something we did at our own office that blew my mind. I ran a quick survey, anonymous, and just through a Google form, and said, "How safe do you feel here in a physical basis?" Here's what I didn't expect. There was a lack of feeling of safety around a alleyway that goes behind our building. So to leave our building to go to the parking lot, you go down this dark alleyway. And our employees said, when it gets dark out, I'm actually concerned of who's there. And I was like, oh my God. So what was happening is starting around 2 PM, we start thinking about the end of the day, and people are like, I don't know if I'm going to be safe. And so that was compromising work performance. So the solution became real obvious. First of all, install lighting so it's not dark.
Yeah.
Step 2 was the parking lot. There's one out back. There's also one up front. It costs us a few more dollars. Our team can park out front, which is on the main drag, and it's constantly with people and so forth. And we just moved the parking spots. And now people aren't sacrificing their work performance through worry because we asked that question about safety.
Wow. What an interesting thing too, to think, of course you feel safe at work, but leaving work, right? If you have an actual physical location. Yeah.
Well, we had one case, someone didn't feel safe at work. I couldn't believe this. The owners of the business, the leaders, were rewarding people to be unsafe. This was, it was bizarre, but it makes sense when you hear the story.
Okay.
It was a manufacturer. They put, I don't know, metal into this big press that comes down and cuts it down. It's tons of pressure to cut through metal. There was 2 buttons, and above the machine, 2 red buttons you had to hit. So both hands were out. You pushed it. But the company rewarded you on how many metal pieces you cut per hour. So what the employees did is they duct tape one in a closed position.
Oh, wow.
So now you put the metal in, you hit it with one hand, it comes slamming down. No surprise, someone lost their hand. And the owners or the leaders of the business said, we got to double down safety and tell people this is a safe work environment and so forth. But the rewards continue to be quantity produced. It was only a matter of time before duct tape was there again. Once we change the reward mechanism to about safety, how much can we do without anyone being injured and not about quantity, did the whole thing come back into realignment and people are being protected.
Well, that's crazy. And here's the thing. 1000%. If you're rewarding a specific outcome, they're going to look for any way to hit that outcome.
Yeah, it's human nature,
wow.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. So interesting. Okay. So vision alignment, we talked about safety. What else should we be thinking about going all in this year?
Psychological ownership. This is research that was done back in the 80s that really kind of went by the wayside with employment. Yeah, it's the biggest lever. I often hear people say, I wish my employees would act like owners. Well, you can actually do this by deploying what's called psychological ownership. Quick story, there is what's called legal ownership and there's psychological ownership, and they are 2 different things. The first lesson we got to understand is that assigning tasks and having some enforcement mechanism around it actually causes retaliation in most cases. Remember this, when forced to comply, we will seek to defy. The example is next time you rent a car, you will be told, return it clean, full tank, all that stuff. You go through that DMZ, lights flash and all that crap. The second you leave the rental place, if you're like me, you punch the gas pedal, you do donuts in the parking lot, you skid into the lights. I don't own this car, and I've been told what I have to do, so screw them. Here's what I want to do. Don't force people to comply. If you want people to flourish, you must nourish. And here's what you do. You invite people to take a sense of ownership. And sense of ownership happens when we have control, the ability to personalize it, and we can learn deeply about something. So give people that ability. So instead of telling people, here's what you need to do, and if you don't do it, you're in trouble, instead say, what do you want to do? And how can you make this your own? How can you really amplify and be an expression of who you are? It's similar to a responsibility, but now you're letting people be creative around it. Yeah. We had an inventory room for this one client we're working with, and they renamed the inventory room to John's Inventory, a sense of personalization. Yeah. He was given direction and control of how he wanted to organize it. And in this case, there was labels. He always wanted labels facing out because he felt it was more efficient that you could see the label facing you as opposed to just haphazardly boxed and stacked. And by doing this, he had this sense of ownership and became a better and better employee because he had control over something.
Yeah. And I think you're right. We talked about this in the beginning of like, well, that's your goal and it's your business and you're going to buy the new house. Like, but what about me? Right. Yes. And I love the idea of creating these like mini businesses for everybody where they have the ownership, they have the capability. It sounds like the opposite, though, of micromanaging. And a lot of business owners, they tend to micromanage, right?
Yes.
They tend to hold on and really grip that control because they're afraid of, somebody messing up and it's their reputation and all of that. So how do we start to make baby steps into letting go of micromanagement into allowing ownership?
Well, I want to start off by saying you are acutely aware of that. This is your goal, because until your employees say this is my job or our company, if they say it's your company, they don't have psychological ownership. So look for those key words. In regards to micromanagement, that is the ultimate definition of forcing people to comply. And that therefore, when you ain't looking, they're going to be retaliatory. And I'm not saying in a bad way, but it's human nature to get even. Abdication is just as risky. Abdication is like, just do it. And we come back and we're frustrated it didn't come out. So instead of assigning tasks, assign outcomes, agreed upon outcomes. That's the first way to start stepping into this. So say, listen, I need bookkeeping done. Instead of saying, do the bookkeeping and here's our method, say, I would like you to make sure that we bill on time, accurately and quickly. Is this an outcome that you agree to? And do you understand? Let's talk about the significance of it. It's fair to our clients. It's fair to us. Okay, we agree to the outcome. Then you say, we have a best practice. Historically, we've done this way. I invite you to start with that, but I want you to build upon that, find better practices. Then, and this is the ultimate thing, have that person teach what they've learned and what they're now doing. Often I do it through a video recording.
Yeah.
Because ultimately the best student is the teacher. So once your colleague can start teaching something, they're demonstrating they inherently know it, and you can have a greater form of release. That's how you move from micromanagement out.
So good. And I love that you're giving them, here are best practices, right? Start here. But we'd love to hear what you think, right? And I think you kind of scratch the itch for both types of people. Somebody who's like, wait a minute, you're not going to tell me what to do, because some employees are terrified of you saying, oh, you've got it. Because, the opposite of micromanaging sometimes is just like, I'm too busy. You take care of that. Like you're on your own, right? Yeah. And this way you've given them the foundation, but you've also given them the capability and the opportunity to explore and outdo, right? To find a better way. And I love that you're really helping both types of people feel good at work.
Yeah, it's a deliberate process, right? So people come from the position or state that they're in. And if my past experience is always micromanagement, that's what I'm going to expect. And I'm going to be very uncomfortable with this freedom. So if I give too much freedom too fast, it can actually put people in a tailspin and they'll fail. So slowly remove them from that. Conversely, someone that's always been on their own, they're an independent island, once you start putting these parameters of agreed upon expectations, you have to also roll that out slowly. If that comes about too quickly, they'll feel too controlled. So come to people meet people where they're at, I guess is the strategy.
Yeah, for sure. We do something very similar. And sometimes I'll have people that come in that really want to take it and do their own thing. And we have to say, like, start here. Like you said, we have best practices, because if you're not getting the outcome, but you have your own unique way of doing it, but it's not getting the outcome we're looking for, and we have other people doing it a different way and they're getting the outcome, right? We want to make sure that they at least start with our process, understand it, and then let's talk about add-ons and differences. And like you said, then let's teach everybody else so we can have everybody's outcome, be at that top level.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on the exact same page as you.
So good. Okay. Mike, anything else we haven't covered that is in this book that people need to know about before they go and run and grab it?
The biggest form of ability that people have that's most overlooked is a concept called potential ability. Most employers look for experiential ability, what's your resume say, or innate ability. Innate ability is, what does the Myers-Briggs or Enneagram say? And we have to look at those things. Yeah. But in the middle is, what could people do in the right environment? And how to discover now is through workshops like Home Depot did. Yeah. Actually, Audible, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal just about 2 weeks ago. Audible is now doing workshops. They call them returnships as opposed to internships. And they're looking for a community who's been out of the workforce because of COVID, or maybe they're caring for elders or whatever, who want to re-enter the workforce but have been out of it for a period of time. you can go through this experience with Audible. And they this promise that you'll be exposed to many things and that you'll have potentially future employment opportunities elsewhere, but they are cherry picking the best returnships for employment. So that's the opportunity potential.
That is incredible. 1000%. Okay. So Mike, where can we find this book? When does it release? All the details.
Okay. It's out January 2nd of 2024. It is available on all major retailers, anywhere, even local bookstores. I'm a big fan of that. Go to local bookstore, either pick it up there or ask them to get it for you. But if you want it lickety split, it's on Audible, it's at Amazon.com, and you can get it there.
Amazing. Well, a fan of your books, you guys go grab it. If it's anything like the other books he has written, you are going to love, love, love it. And I'm very biased on the topic because I am a big believer in building your team. And at the start of 2024, what a better time to really understand what you could build, because it is going to be a people, right? Like it's going to be the people that help you get there. So Mike, thanks for your time. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you so much.
It's been a joy, Stacy. Thanks for having me.